This morning we'll start by welcoming the president of the Transportation Industrial Workers Union. He is Mr. Roland Sutherland. Good morning, sir. How are you?
Hi, morning. I got another problem with the audio.
Are you hearing me any better at this point now?
A little better.
All I need to do is speak up a little bit. Roland, thank you so much for being with us. Tell us what is going on. There are a number of issues here. One of them is the maintenance of the buses. Folks have said that they have been allowed to deteriorate to the point now where it is difficult to have them running. And even when the mechanics can get them running, there is a question of availability of parts and the suppliers. Speak to us about what is going on with the public transport in Trinidad and Tobago vis-a-vis the buses and your members who maintain them.
Well, it's quite clear that if you have 25 different type of buses in which the workers have to repair, it will always pose a challenge for the PTSC to be able to have parts available at the request of the mechanics when they're doing those repairs. I am a bit confused, right, as to who will want to purchase or have 25 different buses operating, most of them from China, some of them from Brazil, and 25 different buses will require 25 different types of parts. I know for a fact that the mechanics always complain to the union, and I'm not an employee of the union, and we have to return the information, always complain to the union the difficulties they have in getting the buses on the road. As a matter of fact, it has reached so bad at one particular time last year that the corporation had to hire maxi taxis to augment the buses because the majority of buses were down. That if we have the corporation, let's say we have over 500 buses, right? But we know on a serious in terms of run out. When I mean run out, the amount of buses that may be available for the road might be around 250. And if you have 250 that's throughout Trinidad and Tobago on a morning before they take them off the run-off line, at least 60 buses might be defective. And by the time 2 hours, you will see, if you pass on the bus route and some of those areas, you will see another bus come and pack up to repair another bus. So it will keep depleting because of difficulties of the parts, getting the parts in from China, right? And when you go to China to buy the parts, you have different companies that they deal with in China. So while some of the engines may be the same, the parts will be totally different. We have some of the Brazilians down here, based on the information from the workers, who are down here and assisting in repairing those buses. But the problem in PTSC is too many different buses. As a matter of fact, I may go further to say, we may have the highest rate of different buses in the world. Right? Most countries in the world might have 4 different types of buses. When you have 25 different parts of buses, that is a prescription for chaos.
It is disaster indeed. I do want to know, is this how many years you stretch back to, if you to say, let's attribute blame to bad planning? How far back have we been having more than 4 suppliers of the buses? Because that is going to be instructive to understand who is to answer the question, what madness is this and what is to be done about it?
Well, if I have to go back, I could tell you, I could have to go back very far. In the 70s and on the 80s, you might have 4 different type of buses. You would have the Mack buses, you would have the Leland buses, and you would have the Cummins buses, which comprise of some Bluebirds. So you had about 4 different type of buses. However, in the 90s and 1994, the bus fleet went down to virtually non-existent, and they had a massive retrenchment in PTSC, and the government plans at the time, through PTSC, they retrenched about 1,200 workers, and they decided to keep 2 routes, north-south and east-west. So the bus service became probably obsolete. However, in 1999, there was a new manager by the name of Jolene John, who came in and who performed remarkably. What she did is to confront the government and get almost about 100 buses. She improved the working conditions for the workers. She improved the relationship between the PTSC and the union, and therefore create a working environment that made workers feel that they were part of the PTSC. And therefore she was able to get about, we had 100 buses, but most of those buses were, we had about 2 or 3 different type of buses. After her reign, we see a fluctuation of buses started to come in. Right? You had the Yutong, you had the Volvo, you had Higer, we had some old Cummins, you had the Titan, right? We had the Marco Polo, and we still have, some of the older buses, some from the international buses. And hearing, that's when the problem really started. Because now you have a fleet of different buses in which you had no proper arrangement in terms of supply of spare parts. At one time they had agents getting the parts for them, so you had to wait on the agents, and that taking months. And when these things happen, you had buses being cannibalized, because if you have a bus there for one part and then you brought in another bus and another defect, they would take a part from that same bus was done for one minor part, and they start to cannibalize that bus to repair the other buses. Right? And that also depleted the fleet, as I said, to the extent that sometime last year they had was to take maxi taxis to carry school children in some of the rural areas and some adults.
If you know the numbers off the top of your head, Roland Sutherland is the voice that you're hearing speaking to us, the president of the Transport Industrial Workers Union. If you know the numbers of buses that we actually have in the fleet and how many of them are roadworthy right now, could you clarify that for us?
Well, not clarify. I will say the information that I have from the workers who are on the floor, right? That the workers' position is quite clear. If PTSC have approximately 500 buses, they are saying only 200 may be available to be on the road, and out of those 200, what they're actually saying to me is by the time an hour or 2 pass, half of those buses would be at the side of the road, pack up for some parts, shut down for some reason. And that is a fact, because it's getting more and more difficult, right, for people to get buses, to get a proper bus service. Well, that's the information I could give you from what we have. The corporation may want to refute that, but I don't think they would, right? Because the evidence is there when people are passing on the bus routes and the difficulty to get buses. And your shortage of buses, and you have to hire maxi taxi last year, will lend credence to what is being said. So I believe the workers when they say that there's approximately 200 and something buses they may have in PTSC. In some areas like the Sandy Grande area, if they're supposed to have 15 or 16 buses, they have 4 buses running out, actually operating. In Shoguanas, I was there last week, right? Out of about 10 buses or 8 buses, they had 1 bus out on the road. And this is the concerns of the workers. So when people see the workers outside holding placards, right, and making noise, it's not just making noise for money or anything like that. It's about the depleting fleet and the deterioration of the PTSC. And by extension, they are protecting their jobs.
Well, exactly. I also, if I got it wrong, please correct me. It was also an issue of the conditions under which they work is one of the reasons they are protesting?
Well, this is one of the major reasons. I was now speaking with one of the workers in the PTSC, and I had the privilege of showing some photographs. And PTSC has very good workers, because the condition in which they work in the engineering department is deplorable, right? And if anybody from OSHA listening to this conversation and they want to walk into PTSC, I'm sure they will close down that whole engineering department. However, the workers will not want to go into that, because they are members of PTSC, they work at PTSC, and they would like to see PTSC improve. But the conditions that are laid down by the law under the OSH Act, the toilet facilities, the area in which they have to close, they put some cupboards around, right, and make that a change. Men and women have to change their clothes. So there's no privacy, right, in that area. PTSC have to to come a little better and complying with the laws. If those workers want to apply pressure on PTSD, they don't have to work a day.
The
conditions are not conducive for work.
The angst of the public is finding somebody to attribute blame to. So I just want to be clear or clarify a couple of things here. One, you have no longer a dispute going with the CPO. There was agreement. Am I correct?
We have signed an agreement. Workers have got the increase in wages. What they are waiting on now is a date for the payment of the retroactive payment. Right? The workers went back to work and they continue to work. Obviously, they will have some concerns as to when they get impaired. That is being sorted out. But their main concern at this point in time is the depletion of the fleet. I mean to say, if you don't have any work, yes, you will get your back pay, but if you don't have any work, and this could lead up to retrenchment, due to no cause of the workers, but because of, I don't want to call it bad management, but I will say that because it probably... It is a management issue.
Well, I don't know what else you can call it.
It's a management issue.
I don't see what else you can call it. 27 different places for you to get parts for your buses. That is alarming. You have a fleet of 500 and only 200 working. That is disturbing. And somebody has to answer for that. If you know at all, Roland, what is the lifespan, i.e., how long is a bus after purchase supposed to run before parts needed, services needed? I mean, of course, we know we can have things that just happen 1 month after. But generally, there is a shelf life. What is the general shelf life? 1 and 2, is there a guaranteed of supply of parts when you start encountering the need for them?
And let me answer the second question first. And that is the part I'm not sure about. Whether or not the corporation go into any area of the guarantee of parts when they purchase these buses. Right? That is one of the questions I have to dig up in, because yes, you require the parts, you send away for the parts take a long period. And we have too much modern technology nowadays. What happened in the PTSD, there are no proper store, no proper thing in place to police the parts arrangement. I know in today's world, you could have whatever arrangement, whether it's China or Brazil, and you can set up a computerized system in PTSD with the proper storage and proper computerization. And the companies where you purchase the buses from, they could tell you. Right? They could tell you when your parts short, right? And they could tell you, well, look, you need so much and so much parts based on their monitoring from where they are. Those things don't exist in the PTSD. They don't exist. So we buy parts by watts. When the bus parts run out, then we send to get parts. I understand there are about 4 containers of parts now in Port of Spain now. I understand they get about 4. But if you check the period, so that they get that for you. Many more buses have been cannibalized to repair the other buses. In terms of the shelf life, I'm not too sure, but I think the shelf life for our bus is between 5 and probably, if you're at the best, you may get a 10-year service. Remember, these buses are outside there on the road, right? Carrying passengers up and down, but I'm not sure. I'm just this figure in terms of the lifespan is between 5 to 10 years.
Roland Sutherland is our guest here. We are awaiting the arrival of the People's National Movement Public Relations Officer and the candidate for San Fernando West, Mr. Faris Arawi, to be with us. In the meantime, we are talking about a situation that is present, and of course, its convenience, its productivity, hours lost, and conditions, as articulated by our guests, are unacceptable for those working in the area there. From your demonstration on Friday, was a meeting convened at all by management to speak to your folks concerning your issue?
Well, the workers always have meetings with the management, and there's one story and over, right? And which, I mean, probably is a bit vexatious at this point in time, because when they raise some of these issues, and obviously they will raise the issue of the retroactive payment, and you will be hearing the PCSU don't have any money at this point in time. They're trying to raise some money, or they're trying to go to the bank to get some money. And, you know, it raises questions about PTSD in a whole. I like who want to bash PTSD, but it raises questions. PTSD is a state company. It's a state company, and we can't be running it by efficient bus service. And you must be in a position to be able to have money to pay your contractual arrangement. There are people, from what I'm understanding, have difficulties in giving parts to PTSD, but they could get locally over here because of some of the arrangement in terms of payment. But everybody know when you're dealing with the government, you take a long while before you get paid.
And in the case of retroactive money, you may want to wait till after the elections to even hear any conversation of that.
And I think that is where the problem is. But people trying to hinge it as the only issue, and based on what I said to you previously, that is not the major issue. The major issue is the continuance of the job tenure to ensure that they have a job, right? Because if they're sitting around, I am not working there, right? But my members are there, and they are watching around, watching the place getting dilapidated, right? Realizing that the bus keep diving, it keep dropping, it down to the point that they are concerned as to whether they will continue working for the next year or what if these buses are not repaired. I could give you a story in terms of one of the best time we ever had a management in PTSD. That was under Julie and John.
You were telling me that the best era, as far as management is concerned, of the PTSC was under Ms. John. Speak to that, please.
Yeah, well, Ms. John came in there sometime in 1998, somewhere around there, 97, 98. And immediately she recognized the problem. She sat down, she spoke with the union, and we were able to work together. What Ms. John did is that she created a proper working condition. A matter of fact, in the garage where the mechanics operate, most of those garages will be oily, and you could have eaten food off the ground in the garage. Right? She improved the relationship with the union, and she got an amount of buses in which she sat down and she had this type of motivation talk with the union and the companies, to the members, and she went on to the first line and made it really right act as the general manager of PTSD at the time, and told the workers, I don't care what instruction you get from anywhere. Any bus that came out of this garage after they pass over this first line with a defect, you will be held responsible. So those workers now who on the line, the final line before the bus go out, if the bus have the slightest problem, the slightest leak, a fuse blow, they tell them, no, that's going back in the garage and get it repaired. Therefore, the life of the buses lasted longer. And she was able, by some means, to get parts, but the buses last longer, so she didn't need this amount of parts. So nobody was telling you, go out with the defective bus and create any problem with the defective bus, and you saw them shutting down at the side of the road, right? And I am saying that was the best era. Matter of fact, Miss John Rain, the relationship was very, very good with the workers. Even the union was a little concerned because she had that clout, right, to talk to workers and get workers to do what she wanted. However, that allowed her reputation started to spread, and she ended up being the Minister of Transport. And after that, her assisted PTSD as much as she could, right, in her terms as the Minister of Transport. But then you had new management, and everything started to go. Rennie, I have a question. I have a thing that I ask in myself, whether or not sometimes I have asked myself, I could be wrong, if these things are deliberate, because the only people who benefit from a deplorable bus service, right, is people who sell in vehicles. Right? You just leave it to wonder.
You seen a conspiracy there somewhere.
It leaves you to wonder why it is that people not putting this emphasis. The traveling public depends on the buses. You have old age pensioners, everybody. The people need to get to and from work, because they are the productive forces of the country. And this is the area you're leaving them outside there. You take away you take away the proper bus service we had previously in some years gone by. And once the service is improper, people started to buy cars, right? Then you implement the maxi taxis, right? One set of people in the society benefited from that and still benefiting. And therefore, the lack of basic attitude towards the PTSD and the buses and things makes me feel to ask the question, right? Whether they, creating the conditions for PTSD not to really function properly so other people could benefit.
There are going to be a lot of questions to be answered because a probe should be investigated into this. As I said, more than 50% of what is available is not working. I do want to ask you this, though, because I'm sure you must have heard it from your members. It must be discussed at some point or the other. There is no panacea here. That is evident. But instead, what measures can be put in place with the present situation to alleviate some of the problems we are having? Do we can we get substitute parts somewhere else? Do we go back to the manufacturers and say, look, give us in hand somebody? I mean, what is there anything that you are seeing with the inside knowledge you have, as best as possible as the president of the union? What are you hearing can be done?
Well, basically, everything lies in the hands of the PTSD management. But in fairness to the PTSD management, PTSD is one of the bus companies that don't make money. And most of the bus companies all over the world today is making a profit. But the PTSD relies heavily on the government, and they will have to go through different channels to even get money to buy parts. A matter of fact, at one point in time, they was not in a position as PTSD to purchase anything. I think that if my information was correct, that was to go through NIPDEC. One of the ministers passed over all these things to one of those companies that PTSD will have to go to them to acquire funding to buy certain things, or they would have to buy for the PTSD. Right, so this is kind of complicated, right? But what my suggestion is that PTSD be allowed to manage the thing to be profitable, that they be able to get the parts and all these things. Some of the other setbacks the PTSD have, if the government agree that old age pensioners and people supposed to have free passes and the school children supposed to travel freely on the buses, that is applaudable. I applaud that. Right? I'm saying, yeah, that is good for the nation. We better assist some of the people at the lower strata of the ladder to ensure that they can move from one point to the next. But if you have the passes in your hand and you have no buses to travel, then it's a waste of time. Right? That is a waste of time if they don't have the transportation system to augment that. And therefore, if we can thousands of people at the end of the year with these passes, then we are saying the Ministry of Social Work supposed to be the one supposed to be paying to PTSD, right, for the usage of those persons with these passes, so that PTSD can function and be kind of self-sustainable and probably come up with a little profit. But if the social ministry and thing, and we are not PTSD is not getting paid, if they are being placed in a disadvantaged position also, as something like part of management there.
Because, at the end of the day, one thing happens here. We all need to find a solution to this. And even if we wait till after this election, even if we wait until somebody new is appointed, a serious look at rehauling the way in which we do business in the acquisition of the vehicle to move all commuters has to be done. Your union, like your workers, are going to be part of the solution, because as though it escapes them sometimes, you and your workers also pay taxes, so you are part of the citizenry of Trinidad and Tobago. Roland Sutherland, you took time to be with me and to extend it, and I truly appreciate it. Thank you so much for your contribution this morning.
Okay, thank you. You're welcome.
Be coming back at you from time to time to talk more about this, okay?
Okay, I hope I shed some light on some of the activities.
Oh, you did indeed. Otherwise, you would not be here for a half hour. Roland, thank you so much. Have a wonderful day.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so very much now.